Hi, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Round Robin. With me today is Christine Mulligan, Nina Mulligan, Regina Lindsay, and my husband, Todd Preston. Hi, everyone.
Hey.
Hey, y'all.
Hello.
Hello, good people.
So, today on Round Robin, we are going to be talking about the maniacal, diabolical Andrew Kehoe. So, if everyone remembers Andrew, this guy had some serious head trauma from falling off a pole, and then he kind of just went nuts after that. So, the topic that I'm going to start off today is about bombers. What is their motivation? And I found a great article on leb.fbi.gov because I was actually struggling with what in the heck are we going to say about this crazy man, especially since we've already talked a lot about head trauma in some of our other episodes. This is an article called Understanding Bombers' Motivations, a Historical Study by Kirk Yeager, PhD, and this was an article on March 9th, 2022. This guy has spent like 25 years studying bombing and explosives and bombers, the whole thing. It's a great little article. But in it, he's talking about what motivational factors there are, and he's identified 3 of them. One is power disparity, one is mental illness, and one is malice. So in his article, he states that many bombings occur when perpetrators feel something critical to their sense of being that is under threat. The more integral the attribute under perceived threat is to a bomber's sense of personal identity, the more likely it will instigate violent actions. So under malice, you guys are going to love this one. So malice is evil intent, and among the most notable in this article, he stated, quote, one case study stands out as starkly evil. In 1927, Andrew Kehoe, a gentleman farmer in Bath, Michigan. And he goes on to, talk about everything that we talked about with the head trauma and that he, was so agitated about the construction of the consolidated schoolhouse, the taxes, the foreclosure on his farm. And in his article, I found really interesting because in the research that I did for the show, it didn't say that he had killed his wife the night before. And in this article, he's saying that he did kill his wife the night before he set off all the bombs. So that was news to me. I mean, I just figured that with everything I read, she was so emaciated and ill. Remember, he put her in the wheelbarrow and then put her outside. Well, according to this article, he had killed her the night before. So I found that very interesting, but I have no idea how he killed her.
But that explains why she stayed in the wheelbarrow that whole time. Because I think I asked you that when we first talked about it, and you were like, "Oh, I guess she was just too ill; she couldn't move."
Yeah. Because I just, like I said, I didn't see anything that said that he had killed her, but it all totally makes sense, right? Just put her dead body in that wheelbarrow and put her outside.
Yeah, but you're not. I know we're not going to touch too much on the head trauma, but you're not going to stop me from saying his penumbra went crazy. Nobody saved his penumbra.
I would never stop you from using your favorite word. Let's see what else here. So I told you about the 3. Let's see. And then, of course, you have overlapping factors, right? Either it's power disparity and mental illness and malice, power disparity and malice. And in his conclusion, the rationale behind any act of violence is complex. Explosives allow anonymity to an attacker, and they place great destructive power in the hands of those who feel devoid of the ability to achieve what they believe is just. These attributes tend to attract those with mental illnesses, malice, or those who are seeking to rectify some existential threat. While other factors may come into play, the 3 highlighted in the article remain foundational to a bomber's motivation. So I just find that very interesting. And of course, when I pull it up, there's Andrew Kehoe's picture. I was like, all right, there you go. And he's the main guy under malice.
Yeah, it sounds like he based his thesis around this guy.
Pretty much.
Well, that the first point you made about, you know, the anonymity of it all and the distance factor, like that kind of voice. I mean, all three of them, like I said, he based all of those on Andrew Kehoe to some extent, I feel like. And kind of, you said that in this article there were other bombers that he spoke about. Anybody, did they all fit that same profile?
There are a couple people in here that I've never heard of before, like George Metesky. And then he was a bomber in the early 1900s as well. And he was a guy who was later on diagnosed as schizophrenic, but he had gotten injured on a job and he was denied workers' compensation. And so then he just started bombing all kinds of places in New York. And I never heard of that guy. Lucas Helder, he's looks like a very early 20-something, late teenager. He was just a little bit on the crazy side, and he wanted to detonate bombs all over the United States that would actually form a smiley face, which I thought was pretty crazy. And then there was a female, last name Deal Armstrong, and actually there is a Netflix documentary on her. She's like the pizza
bomber.
The pizza bomber. And so she had, gotten some men involved. Like she made a guy rob a bank, and then they set up all these bombs. And so anyway, it's interesting. It's on Netflix. I'm definitely going to watch that. But that was in Erie, Pennsylvania. Did you guys ever hear of that?
I do vaguely remember the pizza bomber.
Yeah.
I don't really know the details, but I do remember hearing about that. When did that occur?
I'm trying to see right now.
2003.
2003 was the pizza bomber?
Yep.
Yeah, was that the one where they made the vest and he was wearing the vest while he was delivering the pizzas or something?
Something like that. Let me see here. This girl served as a ringleader of a group who strapped a live bomb around a pizza delivery man's neck to coerce him into robbing a bank. The bomb killed the man. Before facing charges, the pizza bomber, this Deal Armstrong, was convicted of murdering her purported boyfriend, shot him in the back multiple times, and put him in a freezer.
Frozen pizza.
Yeah. So, anyway.
It's a good one. You'll like it. Yeah, I knew it had to do something about something wrapping around his body. But yeah, that was the mind bender. You'll enjoy it.
Oh, you saw it?
Yeah, I did.
Okay. Yeah, I put it in my list of things to watch. I added it to my list.
Just to summarize, Andrew Kehoe, does everybody remember everything that we talked about? Did you guys listen? And do you have any other thoughts? Regina's golden for after she listens to one of the podcasts. She'll be like, "Oh, but you didn't think about this and you didn't think about that." Did you get any of that from this one, Regina?
I struggled with this one a lot. I did listen to it again, and there was the obvious, the electrocution and falling from a Highland pole and having massive head trauma, but it also sounds like he might have been a little bit, he was spoiled to start with. He was the first son, in a family that up till that point there was 6 girls, and then he was the first son or whatever, and his father treated him, he was the little prince or whatever. Yeah, I honestly can't think of a single thing that I want to discuss about this guy, because he kind of disgusts me. Except for the obvious, massive head trauma. He was electrocuted. There is some similarity in my mind between him and like Timothy McVeigh, in the sense that they were both apparently protesting taxes.
Timothy McVeigh, also from Michigan.
Oh, that's true.
You guys have some interesting militia folks up there.
Yeah.
Yeah, we do. And it's not a good history.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's not so much history.
But I mean, seriously though, Timothy McVeigh did say that he targeted a federal building, which, by the way, had a daycare in the bottom floor.
Right.
But that it was related to protesting taxes. This guy just clearly did not want to help support the community at all. Threw the preacher off the farm because he asked for a donation for the church, and then never went to church again.
Yeah, I kind of feel like, we just joked slightly about it when I said it's not that much history. It's because up until today's day and age, there are pockets, not only in Michigan, but everywhere in America, there are pockets of self-righteous humans, in this case, a man, where they feel privileged and like everyone is obligated to kowtow to them. And there is no reason why they would have to go out of their way to do anything for anyone else. Taxes being one of the many things that they felt, they seem to have felt put upon. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And we still have pockets like that today. And we do kind of categorize them as militia-like. And it's because they think that they don't have to answer to anyone or abide by any rules because their way is the only way. And that's how it is. So they don't deal well with change, and they don't deal well with having to be part of a team, part of a village, part of a community.
Right. And especially to, he didn't have any children either. So why in the hell should he have to pay?
Yeah, well, being part, I said this in our first conversation about this, being part of a community, you're part of a community. In order for you to go to a store and get goods you're purchasing from someone else, you need to then give to the contribution and have something purchased from you, even if it's your time to do something. Do you know what I mean? Like, they're purchasing your time instead of any goods that you may sell. Everyone needs to come together and collectively get from other people. So if you're getting from other people, then hello, common sense, laws of balance or whatever dictate that you then have to give something to get something.
Agreed.
Common sense is a myth, by the way. This is just my theory, but common sense is a myth. There's a tag on my hairdryer that says don't use it in the shower because someone tried that. Just say. There is no such thing as common sense.
Yeah,
People thinking yes or no. Maybe.
Yeah, I agree. But that's why humans should educate themselves at least to a level where they understand reciprocity in all forms.
Very true.
So what about you, Nina? Do you have anything you want to say about Mr. Andrew Kehoe?
Okay. This guy, definitely a narcissist, 100%. And except that I don't understand that he was frugal, but then he wore suits to do farming. I was like, wait, what? That doesn't make any sense. That's not frugal.
Well, maybe he only had one suit.
No. It said in the story that the minute it would get dirty, he would go inside and change his outfit.
This
And put
is
on
true.
another suit. And it was always a suit. And I'm like, wait, what? That doesn't make any sense. Who's farming like that? I don't know. He's just crazy.
Well, maybe he had well, that in itself would be grandiose.
Yeah,
ideology.
I know. So that's where I came up with narcissist. Because
Yeah.
I'm like, only a narcissist would do that. That's weird. That's just weird. But this is what I want to know. How old was he when he killed his first animal?
20-something. We did talk about that.
I know, but I couldn't remember exactly.
I think he was 40.
Well,
No, when
no.
he was like 24 or 25 because he was 18 when he went to the middle of the country, St. Louis.
Right.
And then it was a few years before he came back.
Yeah, but that's
Right.
that's
He
right.
came back, he was in his 40s because he went to college first, then he lived in a couple of different states for a few years, and he came back, and his father had remarried somebody, and they had a daughter. The daughter was not a stepsister, she was a half-sister, by the way. But he killed her cat. But he was already an adult because, like, 2 years later, he married Nellie, and he was 40 at that time.
Right.
Oh, yeah,
Right.
that's right.
Right.
Okay.
So
So that's crazy to me because I'm wondering now, because I was thinking that he was younger. So, and if he didn't grow up doing this and having that progression, do we know that he didn't do anything when he was away? Is there any cases over there that match what he did when he came home?
How the hell would we know now?
I don't know. Like, this is what I'm thinking. Because what happened in that he came back and then all of a sudden he just flipped a switch and started killing things?
Well, that's what they said after his head injury, that his whole personality completely changed. He
Right.
wasn't the same person. At least that's what the story leads you to believe.
Right. Right. So, and actually remember in the show I had to correct myself because after he finished at MSU, he went, and I still can't remember the other state, but he was gone for a while. So he was in one state, and there was nothing notable that happened there. And the reason I talked about St. Louis is because that's where he had fallen from the pole, where he got shocked, right? He got the electrical shock up there and fell on his head. He was in the hospital for quite some time and then ended up coming home. So to me, it's all the head trauma, because there was nothing that in any of the documents that I read anywhere that said he was a bad person when he was a younger boy. Like, no issues with him. So I'm attributing all of it to the change after he fell on his head.
Okay, I have a flip.
Okay.
I have a flip. What if? Okay, so this is back in when was the years again?
Well, the bombing and all that stuff, that was in 1927.
Okay, so in 1910-ish, right? When he's in St. Louis in a hospital, he's in for a traumatic brain injury, which means he's in a sanitarium, which means he may have been a subject of electrocution and shock therapy and waterboarding and all of the atrocities that we now know as torture were actually being used to help brain injuries. So is this a product of evilness from the torture that we once called medicine?
Like a Manchurian Candidate, where then one day he just flips a switch and starts killing everybody?
Oh my God, you went too far, Beth.
No? Oh, okay. Sorry.
Well, but intended or otherwise, he did get electroshock therapy from the electrical line. So, you kind of wonder about that too, that, okay, did that start reprogramming his brain? And yeah, to Christine's point, a lot of the stuff that they did back in those days to treat brain injuries or to treat psychosis is barbaric. Those things are outlawed by the Geneva Convention. Maybe if he wasn't, completely gone before that, he was by the time they finished with him.
Here's an interesting
Well,
thing.
not necessarily completely gone, like completely rewired, like literally.
If he grew up as a prince, and back in those days, the boys were the bee's knees, right? Didn't matter what their age was. Everything was focused on them, and all of the success of the family was poured into them. So he may have already grown up with a very grandiose, lofty kind of inflated ego. Perhaps getting electrocuted just magnified that to full-on psychopathy.
Here's an interesting thing. Remember a few round robins ago we were talking about that the brain injury and concussions and how that could change your behavior. Yeah. Well, remember I explained that I know somebody that had multiple concussions and they were not the same. Strangely enough, this same person that I know has also been electrocuted several times. So maybe there's like some crazy combination thing that happens with the brain injury and the electric shock that happens to the brain.
Like a Frankenstein.
Exactly.
I mean,
Good one, hon.
Hey, I wasn't going to cry this time, so I wind up before this call.
You wind up? What'd you do? Oh, you wind.
Oh.
But won't that make you cry?
No, I'm not crying this time. I'm not crying.
I don't believe it.
This time I'm sassy.
I love it.
Speaking of multiple personalities.
I can't wait to see who comes out tonight.
Both. No, I feel like I'm pretty solid all of the personalities at once. I don't think I'm necessarily like multiple personalitied. I'm just multifactorial personality.
I do want to get back to what Todd said, because I think he definitely touched on something there, right? Because what happens with all of our synapses? I mean, that is electricity, is it not?
Correct. I know. That's why I was asking. So what more does Todd know about this person he knows? Is he a psychopath now? Like, is he a bad dude?
I can't really say for sure because it's somebody really close to me.
It's someone really close, so we have to be careful.
Yeah.
But
Oh.
why don't you just talk about some changes?
Okay, well, I don't know if I can without giving too many details, though. This person displayed violence toward me, which is crazy because I'm like all about it. Come on, bring it on. But I just, it was almost like a switch all the time. It could be anything that just made them go from one spectrum to the other, where it was like, and it didn't make sense. It just didn't make sense. Why is this person behaving this way?
Yeah, so it doesn't make sense for that person that they used to be, let's just be dramatic and say opposite personalities for imagery's purpose. So let's say they loved flowers and now they would rather see a burnt backyard.
Yeah, I mean, you wouldn't know who you're dealing with, whether it's Jekyll or Hyde, right? Kind of thing. Like, are they going to be their normal selves? And then all of a sudden, something really bizarre that doesn't seem like it's a big deal sets them off. And now they're triggered. You know, there's not anything that you can do to stop it.
Yeah. Is it a triggering thing where they're Jekyll and Hyde on any given moment? Or was it they were Jekyll their whole lives until they had an accident and now they're Hyde?
Which one was the good one? Jekyll or Hyde?
Jekyll.
Okay, so like Jekyll was good. Dr. Jekyll. So Dr. Jekyll would be good for a little bit and then a long period of Hyde. And then here comes Dr. Jekyll again. And it's like, okay, second chance.
Yeah.
Long spurt of Hyde. And
Yeah.
then here comes good old Dr. Jekyll again.
But there are long periods of time
But there's
between the two of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, but that sounds kind of like this guy, right? Because he was able to be functional enough in his community that they were willing to elect him to the school board. They were willing to elect him, or he was running for other county offices. Granted, at that point, he'd pretty much shown his true colors enough so that nobody was likely to vote for him. But at some point, the majority of the community thought that it was a good idea for him to be the treasurer of the school board, so he couldn't have been Hyde all the time, right? He had to have had some Jekyll days or months.
He definitely
or
had
something.
charisma.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, but all of the, diagnoses are kind of like that, like bipolar, manic depressive. I mean, even ADHD people have highs and lows, where there's mania or depression on any given day. But then most of the time they could be kind of in the middle and just have a propensity to swing too far. The mood pendulum swings too far sometimes. So, I mean, but that runs the gamut all the way from normal people all the way to psychopaths. So it's just their degree.
And narcissists are 100% very good at masking themselves to everybody. But when the door closes, they are a completely different person, which is why it's very difficult to leave a narcissist, because their first campaign is to smear you to anybody and everybody that'll listen. And because they've always been so nice in public, and they're like, usually the higher ups in positions and companies, and they're generally people of church, and they're sometimes on boards of things in the community, and they're on their best behavior when they're in public. So for them, that's very easy because that's part of the game for them. But then when they decide they don't like you, their mission is to destroy you, period, the end. And they are not satisfied until they do. Mm-hmm. And I think that's what they did. The end game was to get rid of the school, because the school was what was causing. And, you can't just get rid of the school because they'll just build another one. You got to get rid of the children. And then there'll never be a school, and these taxes will be done forever. That's just my take on that.
Yeah, good point. And guess what? He had to kill his wife, Nellie, because she kept getting sick and causing those bills. So that's an injustice.
But we really never really expounded on the fact that it could have been that he was poisoning her and making her sick.
Well,
And then when she went to the hospital, she got a little bit better because he went and picked her up. So we just kind of led to the fact that he went and willingly picked her up. What if they were discharging her because she was better, because she hadn't been being poisoned the whole time that she was in the hospital? And then she came home and he said, you know what? Well, that didn't work out for me. Screw this. I'm doing it right now. And ends up killing her. And then he's like, I'm getting rid of everybody. Ends up killing everybody. But he did kill himself, too. And I don't think that he didn't plan on that because it was his truck that was laced with the explosives. I mean, he was always a miserable fuck, obviously. And he was planning it. So he was obviously deliberate, right? However, I think he might have just been okay with planning it until his wife got better. And it just, like, literally made him snap.
He killed his own cattle and then blamed it on the farmer that he bought the cattle from. He killed his own wife. He was willing to kill all kinds of people and kids. He obviously didn't care about human life. And I don't know, maybe there was something about the children that made him want to kill them because maybe they couldn't have kids. Was that an issue?
She was, what was she, 37 and he was 40?
Unheard of, unless it was like your 50th child. You know, some of them used to bang out 10, 12, 15 kids. If you were never pregnant, I don't think it was that common to get pregnant in your late 30s back then, do you think?
I don't know, but I feel like why the kids is because, Nina was definitely on point about the whole narcissism thing, and it's because that is the town's soft spot. That is the thing that is going to hurt the most. A narcissist, they go for the hot buttons. They know exactly how to hurt you, and they go there every time on purpose. I think initially he probably wasn't planning on killing himself, but at some point he just decided, well, you know what? There's not any way that I'm going to get out of this, and decided that he may as well just off himself in the process because he was a coward and didn't want to stand trial and be hanged or whatever, electrocuted, whatever method they had of putting people to death back in those days.
Well, what would it have been?
I'm sorry.
Well, I'm not sure the state of Michigan had the death penalty back then either.
No.
Yeah.
No, they didn't.
So he would have been a lifer in prison.
You did at some point, but I don't remember what year Tracy said that it switched. Maybe it was like 1920, something weird, like really, really early 1900s.
Yeah, I think that it was for a blip and then it got overturned. And then, of course, there's been moments in time where they tried to bring back the death penalty and it was like, no, no, no. Nope, we're not going to do that here. There was no way. I think he did want to kill himself because he just was like destroyed everything, his home, his farm, his wife, the kids. And there's no way that, he was going to stand there and blow up his truck and there's no way he could do that without just blowing him up. I don't know. I wish I could figure out what was in his mind. That would be so interesting to know. Like, even if he had just written something down, a manifest or a manifesto. What is that? Manifest?
Yeah, manifesto.
A manifesto.
Yeah, I just wanted to point out something that Regina said earlier about, focusing on the kids and that being the soft spot for the town. I don't necessarily agree with that because you got to remember the time frame that this was in. This was in a time when women and children held no value. I don't know if that was a focal point because it was children. I think it was just because they wanted money from him. Period.
But women and children had no value as far as the legal system was concerned, but that doesn't mean that their families loved them any less.
No, of course not. But it wasn't.
No, I get it.
Yeah.
I understand where you're coming from, and that's just my kind of musing on that is it just seems to me that if you're going to kill, you're killing the future of the town, right? Metaphorically speaking.
Yeah, they didn't think that far in advance back then. I don't think.
Anyway.
They were it was, the early America was highly, the men of America had a healthy ego in early America. They looked for breeders, not wives.
Fair point.
Yeah, very good point.
So, I just want to be, a little bit historically accurate on that. The warm and fuzzy about children and schools back then. I don't know. I don't know what my problem is with being able to give that credence. It's just that there's just so many injustices still to this day that doesn't really hold true, honestly, to this day in certain areas from certain perspectives. So I just don't want to not point that out, that back then children had no value.
You didn't have child labor and children dying in manufacturing plants and
children of the coal mines and all of that jazz. You know what I'm saying? So, just to be historically accurate on the feelings, the woman fuzzies for children, because I don't think there was any. There probably wasn't any. It doesn't seem like there was, because in certain circumstances we still don't have enough woman fuzzies for our children of today, as with our latest Malice Monday.
You know what I mean? Oh my gosh, I was crying this morning listening to it.
Yeah, our latest Malice Monday, we talked about how, children are not looked after as a village. So I don't want to then do this next podcast and say back in the 1920s that was a thing, because I highly doubt that, because we're still struggling to make it a thing now. Okay, that's it. Enough soapbox.
Well, that was good. Well, I don't know. I don't know. I just don't feel like there's just too much to say about this guy, because he was just so mentally, he was just
quintessential Obama sociopath.
Yeah. I mean, what more do you say about him?
Well, the narcissist really sums it up. This dude didn't care about anybody except himself.
Yeah, agreed.
Okay. To be fair to all the people that are struggling with narcissism and noticing it and trying to deal with it, this is the most extreme version and the danger of being a complete narcissist. This is a perfect example of it.
Mm-hmm.
But everybody's going to be a degree of that. And not everybody that is a narcissist is a psychopathic murderer.
Okay, well, hang on. Because, this actually brings back... So we were talking about this last week, right? And I did neglect kind of to hit on the fact that to be a true narcissist, you have to exhibit 5 or more of the characteristics that I listed off on that particular description, right? Otherwise, every person has 1 or 2 or 3 of these characteristics, and maybe they change over time, as we mature, as we're in different stages of our lives. And that some of those characteristics, some of those narcissistic tendencies actually give you higher self-esteem and make you a better person, make you a more stable, emotionally grounded person. So narcissistic tendencies do not necessarily constitute narcissistic personality disorder, nor are they unhealthy, just like anything else, in a reasonable amount, right? It's when you have all of those characteristics that come together and sort of create the perfect storm, that a person is always that way, to the exclusion of all else, to the inability to have empathy or consider the consequences of their actions, because they just, don't care what happens to anyone else. Then it's a problem. But narcissistic tendencies in small doses are not a bad thing.
Yeah. And I think that's a lot of that's like the new flow. But when, in circles, they're talking about it. They're talking about it on social media. They talk about it in movies and TV shows. And, I feel like narcissism has been a topic of conversation, I feel like, for, I don't know, 2 years, maybe. It's been like 2 or 3 years where it's like everybody is talking about who's a narcissist, that one's a narcissist. I want to say 99% of any exes that I hear about are narcissists. Like, come on. Now, we can't all be narcissists, but I do believe that there are narcissistic tendencies and characteristics that we all carry and put forth in our personalities and all that. Because, to be honest, and that's why I like to clarify when we're harping too much on narcissists and narcissism. It's like, you have to recognize those characteristics in yourself as well. Because I am one of those people where I'm always questioning. am I a narcissist? Like, I'm always questioning that because I'll hear of traits and characteristics. Of course, not in the murderous way that we're talking right now, but I will hear, like, in conversation, in all of these avenues that I said that I've been hearing a lot of it for the past couple of years. I will hear it and I'll resonate with something that they said, like, as that's one of the characteristics, and I'd be like, oh well, I feel like I'm good at whatever I'm doing. You know what I mean? Like, I feel a little egomaniacal. Oh my God, am I a narcissist? And then, and then as soon as you say that out loud, of course, somebody will always say, well, no, because that's the first sign. A narcissist would never ask themselves if they were a narcissist. You have enough empathy to know that that's not necessarily a good thing. Blah, 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 right? They talk about you wouldn't question it. You have empathy. You're good, blah, blah, blah. They give me all the reasons for why I'm not a narcissist. But I tell you what, there's definitely some places, some viewpoints, some perspectives that I have that are hella narcissistic.
Yeah, girl, we all have them.
Exactly, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So I just like to kind of clarify.
All right. Well, did we sum it up?
Well, actually, it turned out we did have quite a bit to talk about this guy, even though it was pretty plain. This dude was just a total nut job that only thought about himself.
Well, I feel like, just like any other electrical wave or impulse, i.e. like a computer, let's say, like the little circuit board thingy that holds all the information on the inside,
Mm-hmm.
If you run a magnet over that, fries it, erases everything, completely blank. And if our brain is like a computer, so I've been told by several science shows that I've watched, that, the brain is actually like the fastest computer in the world. We just don't really know how to access all of that capacity, because we're not on the right maybe frequency, or we just haven't learned how to tap into that. But if the brain is like a computer and you electrocute it, I'm thinking probably going to mess some things up.
Agreed.
So, I don't want to believe this guy's born evil. I don't want to believe that.
No, I don't think he was. I really don't. I think it was getting electrocuted, smashing down on his head, and then getting the treatments he had.
Get off my lawn.
Yeah.
He's that kind of guy, too.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
afterwards.
I think old man grumpiness comes from anoxia. Not enough oxygen to the brain, and they're too stubborn to wear their oxygen, and they're too stubborn to go to the doctor.
I don't know.
Is that because they have too much nose hairs?
And that's I know that's clogged.
They can't breathe.
So old men just get grumpy because they're not getting enough oxygen. So remember that. When you get older, if you're a dude, just wear the damn oxygen, dude. You'll feel better.
And get rid of
nostril clipper.
get rid of the bushes in your nostrils. Otherwise, you're gonna be a grumpy old man.
Exactly. I bet you when you see a grumpy old man, I bet you they got hairy nostrils.
Probably.
That's not true. I'm grumpy as shit.
Oh, fuck that crap.
You're grumpy?
I'm grumpy. I'm grumpy just because I'm old, though.
Todd doesn't have bushes coming out of his nostrils. He's got no bushes.
I just got the hedges at the front of the yard.
Hedges in the front of the yard. Wait, what?
Yeah.
Oh my God. Is he trying to talk about his beard?
Don't peg that on
His
me.
mustache.
Okay? No pegging of, I didn't say that. Cause I did not go there.
What's the matter with my
is he
beard?
talking about bushes meaning his mustache?
Yeah, it's the mustache. He's got some hedges there.
Oh. I was thinking something completely different.
Yeah, as we all were. That wasn't a great.
Where did you go? Where was your head?
Okay.
I thought it was like a Carpet Smashes the Drapes reference.
Oh, no.
I thought he was talking about his twigs and berries.
No, my drapes don't match the carpet.
I thought he had a nice hedge and was covering twigs and berries. That's what I thought he was
My
saying.
drapes don't match.
Twigs and berries.
Little snow on the mountain.
Franks and beans.
Now it's a mountain.
Climb every mountain.
All right, well, I guess we could wrap up the show on Andrew Kehoe with Twigs and Berries.
Okay, yo. Right. Andrew Kehoe, yo.
Twigs and berries and nostril bushes.
Nostril bush. Keep your nose.
That's how you don't become a grumpy old man.
Yep.
Yep.
And keep your nose clean.
Keep your
Keep
nose.
your nose clean.
Hey, that's where that phrase probably came from.
That's what they mean.
What's that, Tom?
That's where that phrase came from. Keep your nose clean.
Absolutely. Look, we figured that out today.
Well, thank
Yeah.
God.
We're brilliant.
Screw Kehoe. We figured out something better.
And that's why the youngins never listen.
All right, everyone. Well, that's it for our show today. Thank you, everyone, for being a part of the podcast. And thanks, everyone, for listening. And we will see you again next Monday for Malice in the Mitten. Bye.
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 Bye.